The debate over whether marijuana is safer than alcohol is reaching a new high, with many parents questioning what they should tell their children. Even President Obama weighed in last year saying he didn't think pot was more dangerous than alcohol. But what do doctors really think? Dr. Aaron Carroll, a pediatrician, decided to tackle the issue in a New York Times piece. Alcohol or marijuana? A pediatrician faces the question. And Dr. Carroll joins us now via Skype. Thanks for being here, doctor.
Thanks for having me.
So let me ask you right off the bat, given the choice, which one would you rather have your children use, pot or alcohol?
The first answer always has to be neither, and you probably have to say it at least one time, if not more. But I think after going through all of the data and looking at which is more dangerous in almost any metric that you'd pick, pot really looks like it's safer than alcohol. So I guess if I had to choose, that would be the answer.
Yeah, and when comparing pot and alcohol, what do some of the studies say when it comes to crime? I mean, I was looking at your piece, and the numbers are really astounding.
Yeah, I mean, we'll often hear about drugs and crime, and we associate one with the other. But almost all of the crime that happens around marijuana is because it's illegally distributed. So it's all about the fact that it's illegal. None of it is really people who are high on marijuana or using marijuana committing crimes. On the other hand, the number of crimes that are committed that have some sort of alcohol component related to them are massive, hundreds of thousands a year, if not more. And it is far worse than what people think is going on with pot.
Yeah, in fact, and I think for young people who many parents are worried about for the right reasons, and how people get addicted to alcohol usually starts when they're in high school or at least certainly in college. And I'm looking at your article. Every year, 1,800 college students die from alcohol-related incidents. Another 600,000 are injured while under the influence of alcohol. And those numbers don't even come anywhere near that when you look at pot.
No, I mean, these are huge, hundreds of thousands of incidents a year that have to do with rape, that have to do with sex, that have to do with violence and assault, and they're huge. And there really are no corresponding numbers that come anywhere close with marijuana. And it's things like that that make it really hard to keep arguing that somehow marijuana is somehow more dangerous than alcohol.
And you actually say that marijuana can lead to lower incident. In other words, it is probably shown that marijuana will make you not be willing to commit violent acts.
Well, there are not
I'm trying to get around that we were sort of saying earlier. Let me just say it. I've never seen a violent pothead.
Yes, and as I said, I think you probably could find someone that is like that exists, but they're hard to find. And, it's not like we do trials that give people marijuana and then see if they go commit violence. But the cohort studies and the other types of research that we have show that incidents of violence, especially with violence related like in a marriage or interpersonal violence or intimate partner violence, those rates are lower in people that smoke marijuana than people who don't.
And so which are you likely to get addicted to?
So, we always worry about pot as a gateway drug, or people argue that hard drugs, and they include pot in that, are more likely to be addictive. But research shows us that about 9% of people who experiment with pot will later become a dependent or abuse it. The percent that later become dependent or abuse alcohol is greater than 20%. So more people who use alcohol are actually going to have a problem with it later in life than with marijuana.
And so I guess the question has to be, and as you said earlier, you would rather your children not do either. But yeah. I guess the question has to be, why is alcohol more accepted socially than marijuana?
I think just because it's been around and legal for a longer period of time. It is just something that we sort of know that college students are going to use. We sort of wink and nod at it. We understand it. The crime or the problem of being caught with it underage is nowhere near as severe as it is with marijuana. It's just because it's a trick of history almost, or maybe because of some, unwritten bias. But it's hard to argue from data or from actual science that is the way that it should be.
Right. We can argue that it's perhaps because it's a business, it's controlled, there's billions of dollars at stake. People have been drinking since time immemorial. But really, when you look at the biological effects that both of those substances have on the human body, and then you look at some of the data that you pointed out in your article, it seems that if you really had this conversation, have you had this conversation with your own children where you say, look, if you're going to do one, I'd rather you do this?
We do, in fact, because my oldest is 13, and I've had multiple conversations with him about drinking, because at school all he hears are incredibly negative messages. Never drink or you're going to get cirrhosis. And then he sees me have a drink and he panics. And we have to have a conversation about, there are risks and benefits, and in moderation everything is fine. But in the back of my head always is, this conversation would be even easier if we were discussing marijuana. That doesn't really come up as often because it's still illegal in my state.
Right.
But as it becomes more and more legal in more and more states, and I think that trend will continue, the conversations for being concerned about marijuana and how to use it reasonably are likely going to be easier than that for alcohol.
Dr. Aaron Carroll, thank you so much.
Thank you.